Hey guys, just want to welcome everyone to the fourth annual Parent Academy. We're glad that everyone could make it out today to listen to our presentation. We have some great information that we're going to be giving you today. I have two great speakers with us, Bradley Jordan, who is our lead counselor for Wayne County Schools, and Nicole Webb, who is a licensed professional counselor in our county as well. And we're going to be talking to you guys today about mindfulness and mental health information. So I'm at this time, I'm going to turn it over to Nicole Webb. She's going to speak first. And so, Nicole, I will turn it over to you.
Hey, thank you, Tony.
Thank you.
Today we're going to talk about mindful parenting. So let me get up my share screen and start our slideshow. So we're going to talk about mindful parenting. And before we talk about mindful parenting, we're going to talk about, what is mindfulness and then why or how can it improve parenting. So just to give a little background about myself, I specialize in the holistic treatment of anxiety and stress management and transition and life issues. I have a private practice downtown Huntington. I do live in Wayne County though, and I've been studying yoga and mindfulness for about 7 years, so kind of blending my mental health background with the yoga and the mindfulness. And I'm just super excited to share it with you guys today. It's one of my favorite things to talk about. Okay, so let's get started. So before we can talk about mindful parenting, and I'm just wondering how my volume is, Tony. It's okay? Okay. So what is mindfulness? Mindfulness is about being fully aware of whatever's happening in the present moment without filters or the lens of judgment. So it's about being in this moment and not in the past or the future. When we are in the past and we're rehashing all of the woulda, coulda, shoulda of our life, that tends to create depression. And when we go into the rehearsing for the future and the what if this and what if that, we tend to create anxiety. So simply put, mindfulness is bringing calm and focused awareness to your mind and your body and living in the here and now. Because peace of mind happens here in this moment. It doesn't happen in the future or the past. Okay, I'm wondering if anybody can relate to this. I know I do. Or it's my glasses. Where are my glasses? And they're on top of my head. Okay, and all of that is another way of saying this. I love this illustration. So this is why our dogs are more happier than we are. They see what is in front of them, and they're just being present. And we have monkey mind. We are all over the place thinking of everything we have to do and every mistake that we've made. Okay, so we're going to do a practice now. This is just a simple little check-in, and then we'll do some mindful breathing, and then we'll do the senses. So wherever you are right now, just feel your feet on the ground. You're probably sitting in a chair, so feel your seat on the chair and scan over your body. Just noticing what you notice. Are there areas of tension or tightness? Is there areas of maybe heaviness? Just noticing what you notice. What's your mood like? Sorry, that's my dog. Wondering what your mood is like, what kind of emotions you're noticing. And then, things distract us from that, like our dog barking. And we just come back to checking in with ourselves. Now take a moment to bring your awareness inward focusing on your breath. So as you breathe in, you're aware of breathing in. As you breathe out, you're aware of breathing out. There's no place else for you to be. There's nothing else for you to be doing. Just living your life one inhalation, one exhalation at a time. Breathing in with awareness. Breathing out with awareness. Breathing in, breathing out with awareness. Sorry, I had to go grab him. Now see if you notice where in your body you can bring your breath or the awareness to your breath most easily. That could be the tip of your nostrils, could be your throat or your chest, could be your belly. Wherever you notice your breath most easily, you're going to bring your awareness there. As you breathe in, you're aware of breathing in, and as you breathe out, you're aware of breathing out. Now just take a moment to notice the effects of this practice. You notice a shift, and it might be very subtle. And see if you notice anything at all. And when you're ready, you're going to open your eyes and begin to look around the room. And if there's a way to look out a window or see outside, I would recommend that. But you don't have to. You can just look around your room. And now we're going to be aware of our senses. So noticing what you see, colors and shapes, textures. You might notice light and dark or shadow. You might notice things that are rough and smooth. Now pay attention to what you hear. Now taking a deep breath, maybe noticing an aroma around you. I know I have candles burning. Sometimes I even use my hair or my clothing. Find something to smell. Rolling your tongue around your mouth, noticing any taste that might be lingering there. And then with your fingertips, find a few different things, maybe at least 3 different textures to feel. And now again, just taking a moment to notice the effects of our mindful check-in and our mindful breathing, and then being present in our senses. Okay. I'm not seeing anyone else on the screen, but I assume I'm still good.
You are good.
Okay. It's hard when I don't have any feedback. I'm not used to this. Okay, and you can still hear me fine, yes?
Yes.
Okay, so I've just given you a little taste of what practicing mindfulness is all about. And here are the benefits of why someone might take time to practice mindfulness. First thing it does is it decreases anxiety and chronic pain. It also increases our sense of well-being. It can help prevent the relapse of depression or if you're in recovery from an addiction. It decreases stress. It improves the quality of life for those struggling with cancer. And it can also improve the effectiveness of parenting and behavioral interventions with kids by increasing your connection and positive regard. And that's why I'm here today to talk about that. So first, let's talk about what happens when we parent under stress. When we parent under stress, our bodies are wired to react. And we often go into a fight, flight, or freeze response. And also, there's a new trauma response that we're learning more about called fawning. So fight, flight, freeze, and fawning. And if you're not familiar with fawning, fawning is trying to make people like you or just go along with things, be very non-confrontational, not very apologetic about things. So that's fawning. And we go into these responses when we're under stress because our brain thinks it needs to protect us. Because when this adrenaline goes and the cortisol goes, it thinks, okay, we're in a threatening situation, and the body doesn't always know the difference between what's real and what's false. So when we are in a triggered response, this is survival mode. This is not thriving mode. This is not where we're going to make our best parenting decisions from. This is where we're just trying to stay alive, literally. So often in everyday parenting, we get triggered into a stress reaction over things that aren't life-threatening. Maybe it's a grade or the way that our kid talked to us. But our bodies are still going to react as if it were. And so then we're in survival mode and we're not in thriving mode. And so during stressful parenting moments, we usually allow our emotions to control our reaction, and we're more likely to lose control or fly off the handle. Of course, this is scary to our kids, and it doesn't help model for them how adults manage stress. So the thing about where mindfulness comes in is we can choose to be more mindful by pausing before we respond. We can't control that we get triggered. Like, that's still going to happen. That happens to me all the time. But the difference is when you practice mindfulness, you can take a pause before you respond. Or maybe as soon as you realize you're responding to something that is a trigger and not what's actually going on. Okay, so I'm wondering if we have any questions so far. I think Tony was going to be looking at something.
Yes, I'm looking, and as of right now, we do not have any questions. But guys, if you have any questions as she's speaking on the YouTube page there, you can click over in the chat and click a response to ask any questions or anything that you may need. So I'll be watching that and giving feedback as we have anything. But so far, Nicole, we're good. We don't have any questions.
Okay, great. Thank you. I'd love some questions, so hang on. Okay, let's do another practice now. For this, I think I'm going to stop sharing screen so that you guys can see me again. Okay, did that work all right? Okay,
great.
Let's start with some tension releasing kind of stuff. So let's take our right ear to our right shoulder. And then take your left arm and extend it, or your left hand, and extend it towards the ground. So you're reaching down, and you're also have your ear towards your shoulder. And that gives a really nice stretch right here. And we hold a lot of tension. I know I do, but many of us hold a lot of tension here. And just breathe. Notice the tension, notice the sensation, and breathe. And then coming back to neutral, we're going to do the same thing on the other side. So taking your left ear to your left shoulder, you might have to be gentle, be as gentle as you need to be with your body. Then taking your right hand towards the floor. Again, you're going to notice that sensation, that stretch. Just breathing into that. Coming back to neutral. Take your chin to your chest. Maybe make little micro movements, nodding up and down, side to side. You could think about your chin tracing your collarbone. Your chin moves up to one shoulder, back down, and then up to the other shoulder. Again, you're noticing any sensations, areas of tightness, and breathe into that. Let's roll our shoulders back. Breathe while we're doing this. And even smile. And let's go the other direction. We also hold a lot of tension, and really we store trauma in our joints. It'd be nice to get the fluid moving in our joints. Do some wrist rolls. Other direction. I want to move into 7 movements of the spine. Let's just inhale up. Inhaling your arms up. Exhaling your arms down. Do that a couple more times, just matching your breath to your movement. Inhaling up, pause, exhaling down. Do it one more time, inhaling up, stretch. Exhaling down. And we're going to do half moon. So let's inhale your left arm over. Stretching to the side, reaching to the side. Exhaling when you're ready to come down. Inhaling your right arm over. Up and over, I should say. Exhaling down. So matching your breath to the movement. As you inhale, reaching over. As you exhale, coming down. Other side. Inhaling over. Exhaling down. The next time you inhale over, have you bring your, let's say if your left arm's in the air, you're going to twist over and place your left hand on your right knee. Give yourself a nice twist and breathing. Releasing back to neutral and then doing the other side. Right arm over, up and over, and then bringing that right hand to the left knee into a twist. Remembering to breathe. Let's do each side one more time, bringing that left arm up, over to your right knee. Gentle twist. Releasing to neutral, bringing your right arm up and over to your left knee and doing a nice gentle twist there. Coming back to neutral. Now we're going to do seated cat and cow. So inhaling as you inhale your chest out, arms back, chin up, reaching towards the sky. Inhale. Exhale, rounding your back, arching. Or sorry, not arching, rounding your back. When you're ready to inhale, you're going to reach your chest out, your arms back, your chin up. Inhaling. Contracting on the exhalation, rounding your back. Matching again your breath to your movement. Inhale and exhale. And you're going to find your seat again, so noticing your seat on your chair, noticing your feet on the ground, feeling your spine nice and tall, almost like a string is tied to the top of your head, pulling up. Your shoulders are down and back. This would be seated Tadasana, mountain pose. Feels nice and solid and grounded. Okay, how's everybody doing? I'm going to go back to our slideshow. So we just did some tension release and we did some mindful movement. And now we're going to talk about what is mindful parenting. So mindful parenting, first of all, is not about being perfect. You're still going to be angry and upset. I certainly still get angry and upset. In fact, I have 2 teenage daughters, so I was laughing as I was preparing for this because I thought, well, gosh, if someone knows them and knows me and says, oh, you must have like the calmest mother that never loses it at all because she goes around and talks about mindful parenting, um, I don't know that they would confirm that, right now. This is busy time of year and tend to be stressed. So know that you absolutely still get stressed even when you're trying to practice mindful parenting, and you still get angry and upset, and definitely take anything that my 16 or 13-year-olds say with a grain of salt about me. um, but anyway, it's not easy and it takes practice, and it's not something that you can fail at. You're either attempting to practice mindfulness or you're not attempting to practice. And when you're not attempting to practice, you can realize that, and then you can make the choice to practice. So the first thing that mindful parenting is about is taking care of yourself. And that's the old adage, put on your own oxygen mask first, like they tell you on the airplane. But it's absolutely true, because if you are working with an empty tank, it's very hard to feel good about what you're doing and be able to take those pauses. So we want to make sure that we take care of ourselves first of all. Secondly, mindful parenting means that you bring a calm, conscious awareness to what's happening instead of getting hijacked by your emotions. So let's say your child says something to you that's one of those buttons they push, right? They know exactly which one it is, and they push it, and there you go, you're hijacked. Once you realize that you're hijacked and you take a pause and you take a breath and you practice, it gives you the opportunity to change your reaction. So just because you get triggered doesn't mean you have to react from a triggered place. Okay. So how does mindfulness help with parenting? Well, first of all, it helps you become more aware of your own thoughts and feelings. So you're not just acting automatically, you are being thoughtful about what you feel and think. It also helps you to do that, be more aware and responsive to your child's needs and their thoughts and their feelings, because often they have needs that are different than ours, and some children, especially more than others, might be very different than you, and they think and they feel in ways that are different. I know with mine, I have one that's very similar to me, and I have one that's very different, more like her father, and it's funny because they both frustrate me in the same ways. So the other thing is you become better at regulating your own emotions. Again, so you're not hijacked. You can take a deep breath and you can respond differently. It also may help you become less critical of yourself and your child, and it can help you not be as impulsive. And it can improve your relationship with your child because they're going to feel like you are being present with them and not just hijacked on your own story. Okay, so there are there are key factors of mindful parenting. There are 3 key factors here of mindful parenting. The first one is awareness and attention to the present moment. So we've done that today. We've been mindful through our breath, we've been mindful through our body, we've been mindful through our senses. The second thing that comes up is attempting to be understanding of the behavior. Why is your child acting that way? Are they tired? Are they hungry? Do they have too much on their plate? Are they experiencing anxiety? Is there a transition that they're going through? Did they not sleep well the night before? The fact that you're attempting to figure out why they're acting the way that they are, that's practicing mindfulness, whether you know 100% that you're right or not. I think the key is that you're attempting to try to understand where they're coming from, why they're behaving the way that they are. And the third key factor is attitude. It's having a non-judgmental, compassionate, accepting attitude. And some of the skills that you need to cultivate in order to practice being more mindful as a parent is listening. Do you listen to their point of view, or do you just like to tell them what you think? Non-judgmental acceptance, accepting them for who they are. Emotional awareness, this is being aware of your own emotions, and being able to regulate yourself. So when you are angry, let's say somebody cuts you off on the road, what do you do to calm yourself down? That would be self-regulation. And also compassion. Okay, some ideas for mindfulness with children would be, if you were wanting to help them learn to be more mindful, a great way to do that is with bubbles. So inhaling and exhaling is done really well and in a fun way using bubbles. Another thing to do is noodling. This is where you turn on a really crazy fun song and you just kind of let it go. And you just shake all your different body parts and just really shake it out. And we call that noodling, and that's a lot of fun. Another idea I have for this is peace begins with me. So if you bring your index finger and your thumb together, that would be one. And you would say peace. And then you bring your middle finger and your thumb together. That would be begin. Bring your ring finger and your thumb together. That's with. And then your pinky finger and your pinky finger and your thumb would be me. So peace begins with me. And you use your touching your fingers to your thumbs to keep you concentrated on that. And then you do it with the other hand. Peace begins with me. Another idea for practicing mindfulness with kids is a daily gratitude ritual. So maybe at bedtime or at mealtime, you might think about something with them that you're grateful for. Another great thing to do would be high-low, which is where you talk about what was your high of the day and what was your low of the day. Everybody shares in the family, and it's a great way to just get a little bit of communication going there too. Okay, so just going to check in. Actually skipped over some things that I was planning to talk about, so let me go back to that. If anybody has any questions so far, I'll check in and ask.
We are good so far. So I'll be. We had one of our parents just comment that she must have been holding some stress in her shoulders. She put in parentheses, "It can't be the 3 teenagers or preschoolers in my home." Laugh out loud. Thank you for the new stretching techniques and mindfulness. You are appreciated.
Oh, that's very great. Thank you for that. Being here looking at my own presentation with no feedback is new for me. Okay, so I'm going to move back because I skipped over some things that I want to talk about. Let's talk about triggers. So there's a couple ways that we get hijacked. I don't know where I want to be here. Maybe here. And one of the ways that we get hijacked is we have like a hot spot, what we might call a hot spot. And a hot spot is a time in our day, maybe, where we're more easily stressed. So can you think about, like, with your kids, like, when are the times when you feel stressed, tired, overwhelmed, maybe you're preoccupied, maybe you're having some stress in your relationship? Those might be times when it's harder to be mindful, and that's when you might have a hot spot. My kids have joked before, like one will say to the other one, "Oh, give mom 5 minutes," or something like that. Because I'm in a hot spot. They know I've had a rough day and I need a minute. So that is one way that we can notice how we get triggered. Maybe you're not a morning person, and like you might tell your kids, like, don't talk to me about like things I'm supposed to give you permission to do in the morning because I'm not fully thinking and then I don't remember, or something like that. So just notice how you are different parts of the day and how you can work around that, just being aware of it. The other thing is emotional triggers. So I want you to think about your own children and your own triggers and things that have happened to you, but when your child behaves in a way that clashes with your beliefs. So let's say you teach your kids not to throw food and you're in a restaurant and they throw food. Or they grab a toy away from a kid on the playground, and they're 3 and they don't know better, they're 2. But you get embarrassed and you think they're not acting the way that I want them to act. So when your child behaves in a way that clashes with your belief system, that's going to be a trigger. Your child might be not doing anything wrong. They're just being 2. 2-year-olds throw food sometimes, or 3-year-olds grab a toy. But it triggers you, and then maybe you have an overreaction to it. The other way we can get triggered is when your child's behavior evokes a childhood memory for you. For example, your child, doesn't get the grades you think they should get, and so you feel like you failed as a parent because when you got bad grades, your parents, told you you were a bad kid. So when your child's not doing what you want them to do, it's bringing up like your story, what I call your baggage. And we all have baggage. Like all of us carries around baggage from things that have happened to us and our parenting and the teachers that we've had and all of that. So when you carry baggage with you, sometimes that's what's getting triggered, and it's not even about your kid. It's not about what they're going through. Maybe they're doing the hardest they can and they're getting a C in that math class. They're not doing anything wrong, but you carry this baggage that tells you that there's something wrong with that. Another way you might get triggered is they might remind you of something that's happened to you that was actually trauma. So for example, if you broke your arm when you were climbing a jungle gym as a kid, every time your child's out, climbing on something high, you might have an automatic reaction to that. That's not safe, that's dangerous. Whether it is or not, you're not able to assess the present situation because you're going back into your own trauma. So being aware of that can be very helpful. And then another way that we get triggered is our child's behavior basically activates our lens of fear and desire. So if one kid wakes up the other kid during the night, no one is sleeping and everyone is crying, I worry that I'm not going to have any time for myself and I'm going to completely lose who I am and I'm going to go crazy or something like that. So their behavior triggers like your biggest fears, and you do like the what if thing, and it can get away from you there too. So in order to have control over our emotions, we first have to recognize and anticipate what type of situations are likely to trigger you. So knowing what your hot spots are and then knowing what your emotional triggers are is just really important in parenting. Okay. Just reviewing my notes here and seeing if there's anything else that I have forgotten to tell you about. Okay. I think that is majority of what I had to present. I was going to do another practice. Let me find that on here. If there's not any more questions, I'd love to hear from you guys. Okay. So if there's no more questions, then I think we'll go to a nice, long, luxurious practice.
Yeah, we don't have any more questions, but it is showing some type of an error on the chat that it's disconnected, so people may not be able to respond. I'm not sure.
Sorry if you're trying to ask a question, we don't know. But we will go into some centering and a body scan. And again, I want you to notice how you're feeling now. And then you're going to notice how you're feeling when we get done. And also, I want to talk about some of the challenges when you're doing mindfulness. Sometimes you might feel like your mind is racing and you're not able to focus, but that's actually part of the practice. So if your mind wanders off to what ifs, when you notice that and you come back to the body part that I'm talking about, or the part of the breath that we're inhaling, you're back to that awareness. That's practicing mindfulness. So don't think that you're not doing it, you're actually doing it. It's when you don't recognize that you've gotten off track that you're not doing it. The good news is, as soon as you recognize that, you can come back. Just like with the mindful parenting. As soon as you recognize you're being hijacked or you're responding to something from your baggage, you can recognize that and you can do something different. So, also, you might notice when we do meditation practices or mindfulness practices, you might notice that some uncomfortable feelings might come up because a lot of us, we go really hard and it's do, go, and things happen throughout the day. We even, experience loss in our life and changes, and maybe we don't fully process it because we're going, doing. So sometimes when we sit to do meditation and just be, we also are allowing some stuff to come up, and that can be unpleasant, but I can assure you it's really normal. And if you can just allow it to come through, maybe if you have a tear, you let it go. If it feels more significant than that, if it feels like a mental health issue or you really have some significant trauma coming up, I recommend seeing a professional like myself. But for many of us, we're just going through the motions and we're going and we're doing and we're not always processing just, daily stresses and daily hurts and things that happen. So, let me see. So I think that's about it. I wanted to say about like the challenges of practicing mindfulness for people. One other one is that people think that you have to be in a certain position. And I think that, meditating from a lotus pose on a yoga mat is nice, and I like to do that. But to be honest, most of the time on a day-to-day basis, it's usually in my office chair, or it's on my couch, or it's in my bed. It's wherever I can fit it in. So know that too. We don't have to carve out like these huge chunks of time to practice mindfulness. I really prefer teaching people how to weave it in. If you can take a few deep breaths at a stoplight or when you're taking a shower, you're fully in your senses, and that's what you're practicing. That's how you're practicing. I think those are really doable, and they add up and they make a difference. Okay, so you don't have to be in any particular position. And you can leave your eyes open or closed, whatever feels right to you. If you want to stay awake, you might want to stay seated. But if you wouldn't mind falling asleep, you can always lay down. And sometimes when you do some mindfulness, it can decrease your body temperature. So sometimes it's nice to have a blanket around you. You can use an eye covering to cover your eyes. Even a towel or dishcloth or something like that can work. So right now, just find a comfortable place to be that you would like to practice. And we'll go back to focusing on our breath for a moment. Before we do that, let's make sure our feet are on the ground, our seat's on our seat, or if we're laying down, just noticing the back of your body. where it meets contact with the ground or furniture. Just bring all of your awareness now into your feet. Noticing your feet on the ground. Bringing awareness into the balls of your feet. Bringing awareness into your heels. Bringing awareness now into your toes. Just feeling and breathing into your feet. Notice the temperature of your feet. You might notice some constriction from your shoe. You might notice some heaviness or maybe even tingling. Whatever you notice in your feet, noticing in your feet. Whenever you're ready, you're going to gently shift your awareness into your hands. Noticing your hands wherever they make contact with your body or each other. Bring awareness into the palms of your hands, your fingers and your thumbs. Noticing the back of your hands and the temperature of the air on your skin there. Noticing any sensations or any tingling or anything you feel in your hands, or if you don't feel anything, notice that too. Just feeling and breathing into your hands. Now bringing your awareness into your heart area, the center of your chest. Recalling the image of something beautiful. It might be a landscape or be an animal or flower or tree. Bringing up the image of something beautiful in your mind and breathing that image into your heart. We're going to move into a body scan. We're going to say various body parts. You're going to bring your full attention to one as I call them out. I'm going to start with the center of the forehead, hollow of the throat, your left shoulder joint, your left elbow joint, center of your left wrist joint, the tip of your left thumb, tip of your index finger, tip of your middle finger, the tip of the ring finger, tip of your pinky finger, center of your left wrist, your left elbow, your left shoulder joint, the hollow of your throat, your right shoulder joint, right elbow joint. Center of your right wrist. Tip of your right thumb. Tip of the right index finger. Tip of the middle finger. Tip of the ring finger. Tip of the pinky finger. Center of the right wrist. Right elbow. Right shoulder joint. Hollow of the throat. Heart center. Your stomach right below the breastbone, solar plexus. Bringing your awareness there. Now bringing your awareness to your navel center. This is 2 inches below your belly button. Bringing your awareness now to your navel center. Your left hip joint. Your left knee joint. Your left ankle joint. Your big left toe. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. Pinky toe. Your left ankle. Your left knee. Your left hip. Navel center. Your right hip joint. Your right knee joint. Right ankle. Big right toe. Second toe. Third toe. Fourth toe. Pinky toe. Your right ankle. Right knee. Your right hip. Navel center. The area of your stomach or your solar plexus at the bottom of your breastbone. Your heart center. Hollow of the throat. Center of the forehead. Taking a moment to deepen your breath now. Noticing the effects of our practice today. Noticing how your body is responding. Opening your eyes and looking around. Knowing that the calm and peace you may be feeling right now is always accessible to you. You practice. When you practice. I'm still with you. Not sure how to get back to not sharing my screen.
It should say stop share there somewhere, Nicole.
Stop presenting.
There you go.
Okay. So wondering how everybody is doing, if anybody has anything.
We did have a question there. Let me pull it back up here. This is from a parent that says, I have a trigger with my teenager and COVID issues. How do I deal with her socialization withdrawals and reminding her to stay safe? She wants to visit with friends.
That is a tough one, and I think one that we can all appreciate right now. So my advice would be, what are your deal breakers? Like, what is your non-negotiables? And then where can you be flexible? So maybe a non-negotiable might be like, I'm not allowing sleepovers, like you can't have your heads together, that kind of thing, sharing air. But maybe you're okay with them meeting outside with, proper distance. There might be certain things that are okay, certain things that are not okay.
Slow down, I'm having internet.
I guess I'd have to know more about like what the parent feels like is a trigger from their own past, because I mean the anxiety of COVID is real. I mean, this is a real thing that we do need to be concerned about. At the same time, we're not at the place where we all need to be in our homes like we were a year ago. So it gets tricky, but I would definitely talk to people that you trust. And I know for me, there's been times when I look at people I trust and what they're doing, and it helps me feel better about like decisions I'm making too. So get support is the other thing I would say. I hope that answers the question.
Guys, is there anyone else that has a question? If there are, the chat's working again now, so you can ask a question there, and then I can relay the question. We'll give just a few seconds for anybody to respond.
I mean, it is COVID just ups the ante on all of this stuff, being able to manage your stress and our relationships with our kids. It's just a really tough time. Just do your best and assume that your kids are doing their best too, and the teachers are doing their best, and everybody's really trying to do the best they can, I believe. And nobody knows the answers. Like, we're all trying to figure this out. It's like trying to navigate the wild, wild west. Part of that non-judgmental is maybe that there isn't a right or wrong. There might be more than one right. Do we have any other questions?
The parent has also asked, she said what she wants to visit with friends, and I'm not sure how their parents deal with it.
Yeah, so is there a situation where you could make it comfortable? Like, would it be okay for them to meet up at Pullman and be outside? Could you ask your child, like, if you're going to be in the home, I want you to wear a mask, but if you're outside at the friend's house, you can take the mask off. And I'm not saying like those are right for everyone, but that might be something that you could consider being comfortable with. If you have somebody that has low immunity in your household, your boundaries might be stronger than other families that don't have that situation. So I think that, again, there's not one right or wrong, but where can you find flexibility so it's not just a hard no? Your teenager isn't just hearing, no, you can't ever be with friends. Like, how can they be with friends. Help them figure out how can you be comfortable with them being friends, because that's really what they want. They just want to hang out with their friends, and you want them to be safe. So how can you guys work together to have that both ways?
Yeah, and she said some follow guidelines and some don't. And yeah, I agree. You can't control what other people are doing. No matter how much we try, we still don't know what's always going to happen every moment. But you can do things like Nicole said, is, you set your rules with what you want her to do in those social situations. It may be that you can meet them at the park, but you can't meet at their house. Or they can come to our house, because you know what your rules and guidelines are, and you can control that area better than you can someone else's. So those are some things you might consider.
Yeah. Just like how can you help them have time with their friends? That would be the question I would ask. Like, how could you make it okay and try to offer that? That way they're not going to rebel.
Mm-hmm.
Teenagers want to be friends.
Yes, and she said she gets peer pressure sometimes for trying to follow the guidelines.
Yeah, that's tough, But that's a good life lesson, because there's going to be lots of things that come up that we have to make our own decisions about, and our kids have to make our own decisions about. I mean, I remember the first time I wore a mask somewhere. I think it was Ace Hardware, probably like a year ago, before it was a thing. And it was really uncomfortable because I was the only one in there. And it does trigger that like embarrassment. I'm different. I'm doing something weird and all of that. But then now it would be like no big deal at all to do it. So, I mean, these things change fast too. And I think we all have to deal with them. So modeling how to do it as an adult is a great way to model that for your kids too.
Yep, I think you're right. That's great. Thank you.
You're so welcome. I hope that's helpful.
Anyone else have any more questions before we wrap this part of the academy up? Nicole, we appreciate you being here with us today. And
I appreciate having me.
Yes, that's great. You did a great job, and lots of great information, and we love the techniques. I'm sure that parents can take those and use them at home with themselves and their children, and be successful in some ways to help with this state of being that we are right now.
There's nobody that can't use some stress management right now, that's for sure. And just try to weave it in. I believe you with that. Weave it in one moment at a time.
There you go. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Take care, guys.
Bye-bye. Okay, next we have Bradley Jordan, and he is our lead counselor for Wayne County Schools, and he's going to be going over some information with us for mental wellness. And I'm going to turn it over to him at this time and let him do his presentation.
Hello, everybody. Thanks, Tony, for having me today. I just let me share my screen here really quickly as I get started. I think you might be able to see that now. I just got some contact information there for my email, and feel free to call me or email me, and I'll give my contact information at the end again as well. Just a little bit of background on this position and a little bit of background on myself. I was a school counselor for about 10.5 years or so at Spring Valley High School, and then previous to that I had some experience within the criminal justice system. So it was some great experience that led me this direction. Really appreciate Wayne County Schools in the state of West Virginia in the last 1.5 years or so, maybe 2 years. They've really recognized the need for mental health and the student support services that we're going to be able to provide, or that we're currently trying to provide and grow and get better and do some things for our students, become way more important as we move forward, and realize the need that we have here, not just in Wayne County, but also across West Virginia. So again, we'll get back to my contact information at the end a little bit. So some discussion points that we're going to talk about here during our presentation today. What is mental health and how does it relate to academics? And what is Wayne County doing to support our students' well-being? We'll talk about some positions, some programs, things that we're trying to do and focus upon, and then we'll talk about some other online things that we have. And then at the end, I know Nicole was talking some here about parenting as well. We'll talk about what you can do at home to support your students. So, what is mental health? And you can read the first bullet point there. It's emotional, psychological, and social well-being that affects how individuals think, feel, and act. The discussion there towards the end of Nicole's was COVID issues. COVID has spotlighted these issues of mental health and struggles, anxiety, stress, depression, whatever that may be, but it didn't create the problems. Maybe it just has magnified them a little bit. So we'll talk about those a little bit, but hopefully we'll be able, through our discussion, and feel free to chime in with the chat on YouTube and ask questions. We can stop and talk anytime you have a question.
Bradley, real quick, she said we're not seeing the bullet points.
You're not seeing the bullet points? Oh, I'm sorry. Let me see if I can get that fixed. Let me see if I can fix our issue here. Just 1 second, please. Can you see that now?
There you go.
All right, so now we got a little bit better. Now we can maybe see my information there. Sure, good. Now there's the discussion points that we were talking about there. That we'll be going over during the presentation. Sorry for the little bit of delay. I think I was sharing the wrong screen there, so I apologize. Again, what is mental health? How does it affect academics? Emotional, psychological, and social well-being that affects how individuals think, feel, and act. Again, COVID didn't create the issues, but it has magnified the issues over the last 12, 14 months. Mental health is the ability to adjust to life and what happens to you. There's a lot of different contributing factors to mental health and a healthy mental health or an unhealthy mental health. One thing that I kind of want to talk about with mental health, you say mental health and there seems to be a stigma that is involved with mental health. Something's wrong with you or things like that. But I'm a very firm believer that 100% of the population can benefit for some therapy or counseling in some manner, whether you think you have things together and you're moving. And I feel that way sometimes too, but there's always ways that a different way you can look at things and way to improve your mental health and things like that. So that I appreciate over the last few years that mental health is becoming more and more important, and losing that stigma so much that we realize that it is something that we need to address and that we need to take care of. It's not something that take care of itself sometimes. So you can see there are signs of good mental health. We're able to manage our positive and negative emotions. And I put on there, it's okay to cry, because that's a way that we can release some of those emotions. And I compare that to like shaking up a pop can. Eventually, shaking up a pop can is going to explode. Kind of the same way with our emotions. If we don't let that pressure off in some manner in crying, then we're eventually going to explode. So it's okay to cry. Manage appropriate relationships. I think that's really, really important. You later on in this presentation that relationships matter. Relationships between your student and their teachers, students and adults, adolescents and adults, adult people that we work with, those relationships matter. So we need to have appropriate relationships and know what those appropriate relationships are and how to coordinate with those. Change is hard. You got to be able to figure that out, be able to cope with change. Nobody really likes change. Change is not necessarily easy. But, a sign of good mental health is we're able to cope and deal with those things. And how does mental health combine with academics? mental health, you're able to learn academic and social health they're closely linked. And we'll talk about a little bit if we're dealing with something in our social, emotional wellness, if we're dealing with something that may be negative there, academics are not going to be very high on the ranking. So we'll talk a little bit about that. Here's the different influences that we're talking about with our mental health. There's biological, psychological, and social cultural influences. And you can read those on your screen. There are so many things that affect our mental health in different ways. Could be the way, could be home life, could be relationship driven, it could be as cultural as our housing situation, our economic level, socioeconomic status, our religious beliefs, our values, our ethics. Those things are influence our mental health. Psychological, those things are ever developing throughout your life, and different skills that you learn there. So those things also affect our mental health. Biological, nutrition. I don't know about anybody on this academy this afternoon, but when you start eating bad and negative, I think you feel bad, which is a trigger to bad mental health. If you're not feeling well, you struggle mentally. And so, I notice when I'm not eating a lot of sugar, or if I'm eating a lot of sugar, fatty foods, heavy foods, good country cooking heavy foods, that sometimes that affects how I feel, really sluggish, and it really changes mentally and things like that. So, biological influence. On the flip side of that, I know that, when you're exercising and you're able to, your body takes care of itself a lot of times, that it's able to give you that adrenaline and you start feeling better that way too. So those three things are all contributing to your mental health. So it can tend to be, getting hit from a lot of different directions, if that makes sense. So I'll pause here for a second to see if there's any questions in the chat just before we kind of go on. It's a good stopping point here. So. All right, we'll keep going here. Thanks. Feel free to chime in. If you know me at all, I really like the interaction. Like Nicole from earlier, it's sometimes difficult being not in person and you're talking to your computer screen a little bit. And so feel free to chime in anytime you have any questions or comments for that matter. Influences on poor mental health. I really like this illustration on this slide. Sometimes we get so overwhelmed with things bouncing around in our brains. And I think if you noticed on Nicole's, one of her illustrations where the person was walking their dog in the park and all the dog was thinking about was the sun and the trees and different things in the park. And then the person who could be enjoying those same things have thoughts of their kids, their bills, their home life, their relationship with their significant other, all these things that are bouncing around in our heads. So I really thought that was a really effective illustration on this slide. But influences on poor mental health, family dynamics. I think that is a contributing factor in many of our situations around our county and our students' homes and things like that. We'll talk a little bit about students being raised by their grandparents or their great grandparents or another family member, and we'll talk about some programs that we have in place to support those families. And family dynamics really can kind of create that person and really affect that mental health. ACEs and trauma is something that I really want to highlight here on this slide. ACEs stands for Adverse Childhood Experiences. And the CDC, everybody likes the CDC and heard about the CDC a lot here in the last 12 to 14 months. But I wanted to quote something some numbers that they put out recently. Is 61% of adults across 25 states, 61% of adults across 25 states reported at least one ACE, adverse childhood experience, during their childhood. That's from 0 to 17. So we're talking about, a lot of different things with what can be contributed as an ACE. And we look with our students. What is, Nicole was talking about this as well, what is the reason for those behaviors? Are there some ACEs in their family history or the student's history that are contributing to some of those behaviors? I'm not always, that's not always easy to find those reasons. A lot of times it could be family violence, it could be lack of consistency in a place to stay. It could be a lot of different things contributing to the ACEs. But we tend to look at that because if there's a chaotic home life or a chaotic situation that they see a lot, that can cause trauma that triggers the behaviors at school and things like that. So we really look at that, and then you can still look at those other things down the list. But what I liked about ACEs, or what studies show about ACEs, are these things that can contribute to long-lasting negative effects to our health, to our well-being, and or they call it life opportunities, like through our education or our job potential. These adverse childhood experiences can contribute to heart disease. They talk about, I mean, it's really fascinating, the increase in heart disease or bad health if you've experienced multiple ACEs in your childhood, or other, you limit your educational opportunities because you're worried about the trauma or something that happened in your childhood. It's very entertaining if you want to study the ACEs and how they contribute to negative life experiences. And some of those listed underneath that are some of those negative life experiences. Unemployment for the parent, unsafe space at home, or an inconsistent place to stay, different things like that. So those things are to contribute to poor mental health. Now we're going to talk about the link between academics and social emotional health. And I really like this quote here at the top of this slide. The question is no longer if social emotional health affects academics, but rather how to best address them both. Again, it's not COVID that has created these issues, blended learning in and out of school. These issues, the social emotional wellness and academics, have always been a tag team approach. It's just now that we're concentrating on them more. And the COVID issues over the last 12 or 14 months has just honestly really highlighted or intensified these issues. So you look at the equation at the bottom of that, underneath that picture, critical thinking, collaboration, and technology. That's the academic kind of thing. If you think about employment and things as far as outside of school and what kids are trying to do, you have to be able to critically think in the job market, in the job world right now. You have to collaborate with others. Tony Dell and I have collaborated a lot on this particular presentation, and we collaborate with the yearly planning of the school year and different things. And, obviously technology is another big part of moving forward. I mean, the world has been online meetings and different things over the last year or so. So those things we need our students to be good at: critical thinking, collaboration, technology. But we also have to take care of their social emotional wellness, their social emotional growth. We have to take care of those things too, because what are we trying to create? The whole student who can reach their highest potential. That's what we're aiming for. We're aiming for the whole student, and we need to make sure that we approach education with the whole student in mind. It's a two-pronged approach. It's an approach that we have to really get after and pay attention to, because if we just concentrate on academics and someone is struggling with stress management, anxiety, depression, one of those, then they can't really reach their full potential in their critical thinking, collaboration, and the academic part of things. And vice versa. If we concentrate solely on their social emotional and don't put them in a situation where they have to be able to collaborate with teammates and things like that, we're not really allowing them to reach their potential. Because there are so many jobs out there now that are having to connect and build relationships with each other and different things like that. So really within Wayne County Schools and the student support services that we kind of deal with, we're looking to create the whole student. And if you look at the next bullet point, studies consistently show that children learn best and are more engaged when they feel safe and supported and connected. And we'll get more into that here in a minute about, trauma-informed classrooms, and all students kind of have a history and have a story, if that makes sense. How are we dealing with the academics and the social emotional health in Wayne County? We already talked a little bit about relationships matter, and I really like this quote here. It says, "Long after students may have forgotten what you tried to teach them, they'll remember how you treated them." That's so important to have those relationships. You can always remember your favorite teacher, your favorite person that you might be connected to, that you went to school with. I can remember, several people coming to mind right now. And it wasn't what was going on in the classroom necessarily. It's how you interacted with them, how they treated you, different events that they made things fun with, and just tried to make that connection with you. So really, for our student support team members, relationships matter. And you can see this is a great thing that Wayne County schools and teachers and principals have been, and I'll just admit it, have been screaming for several years of needing student support. Well, the state was able to find some funding, and they've really promoted the funding for student support. And you can tell that we have added a lot of people to our student support team members. There's over 40 members there, and you can see what different positions are listed there. And over the last little bit and the craziness of the last year or so, we've really tried to figure out what lanes each one of these people are driving in so that we can all drive down the same highway in supporting our students. So that's kind of what we've been working on, and connecting with our students and connecting our people in the appropriate places so that we can build those relationships with our student. It would be great. It's really a goal of ours for every student in our county to be connected to an adult in some manner, whether that's their teacher, their principal, if it's the custodian, the cook, a counselor, a social worker, a nurse. When you connected to an adult in some manner in the school building, that makes school that much more enjoyable and something for the student to look forward to. So that's kind of what we're trying to do here with these team members. If you look over on the right-hand side, each school has developed a student support team based on those members on the left side of the screen. Those members are on each school's that they're assigned to's team, plus the principals, a teacher, maybe the special education teacher if that's needed, or the case manager, 504 coordinator. Different people are involved there. What we try to do earlier this year, I think we were meeting way more frequently than once a month when students were out in blended schedule or we were out remote learning. We were really meeting weekly, trying to identify those students that we needed to make connections with, touch base with, do home visits with, and people seeing this presentation may have had some of those people visit with them, or at least phone calls. But the goal of the student support team is to meet frequently, to connect our students with the services that they need. They need those services if they need some interventions, some counseling, some individual counseling, some small groups, and we'll talk about how we identify those here in the next slide. But that's what the goal is: creating a support system for our students and finding the things that they need to help support them. It also helps us manage our caseload so that all of our social workers are not getting overwhelmed with the amount of home visits and things that they do. And also, like our mental health counselors, they're not getting overwhelmed and being more with the intensive counseling situations and things like that. So it allows us to control those things, obviously to benefit the student in every way that we can. The things that they talk to, their examples. If our interventions are working, let's continue those services. If we can reduce the services because student B is doing well and being able to cope with the situation or dealing with the situation that they may be struggling in, then we can reduce those interventions and we can move them up and down the tier system that we're going to talk about in the next slide. So I'm talking a lot here, and I don't mean to be. I apologize if I'm feeling
giving too much information, or you have a question that you want to put in the chat, please do so. I'll slow down there and answer those questions, or you can email me or whatever here in just a little bit. Okay. All right. So kind of the idea. Oh, I'm sorry. I've skipped ahead of myself here a little bit. I want to show almost. I want to stop sharing my screen here just a second. All right, I want to go over here. This is going to take me a second. I apologize. I'll re-share my screen. So some of the programs, let me make sure that that's coming up there. Great. I think it is up there. You see the state of West Virginia and the counties. This is a new website that the West Virginia Department of Education is putting out about student support services across each county in the state. Obviously, we're going to talk about Wayne County here, and I'm really, really excited about this website because what it does is it shows everybody our what we're doing in the county, our programs, our people, our individuals, and gives us contact people and things like that. I thought this website was supposed to be up and ready to go by the end of last month, but I think it's been delayed a little bit because I couldn't find it. So this is a draft website, and there's some additional information on there. But I wanted to talk about a few things off of these sections. So you can see the social emotional behavior supports that we have. We have schools that are doing PBIS. If we're looking right in here, we're looking at other curriculum that we have. And there's some additional things that we offer there that will be added to this list so that each one of our, let me pull over my notes here, the things that we've added there. We do some second step information there. Second step is a curriculum that we use at our elementary level for school-wide supports. We do the flash body safety education for our middle school and our high school. We've been doing the body safety, sexual assault prevention lessons to our schools K through 12, our students K through 12 this spring. And I know there's some questions there, and we'll feel free to
We can put you over on this one. Hey guys, sorry about that. We just lost some internet connection, so you want to transfer over to this one?
I won't have my
presentation
there. It'll come back
See
up
if
here in
it'll
just a
connect
second.
back. He's going to connect it back, and while it's connecting back, he can be talking with you.
Sorry for that. It kicked me off for some reason, and so you can see there, I think on the screen, some of our. I'm a little bit jumbled here. I apologize again. So some of our programs that we've offered, and our thing will come back up here shortly. But some of the things we talked a little bit about grandparents earlier. We have started at two of our schools, Fort K Pre-K 8 and Wayne Middle School, a healthy grandparents program. Now we started there to help us get started with the program, but we're going to grow this program across the county. That's what we would like to do so that we can help support our grandparents. I know that there's a lot of grandparents raising their grandchildren or great-grandchildren, or an aunt or an uncle that's raising their niece or nephew across our county. So we want to provide some supports there if we can. And this Healthy Grand Families program, it's a statewide program in all 55 counties that helps support or set up a support group kind of thing for our grandparents. We are going, I believe, at Wayne Middle School, we tried earlier this school year, and with the COVID issues and having in-person meetings and things like that, it's been a little bit difficult. So this summer, during our summer program, Wayne County Schools is offering, Wayne Middle School is going to start that initial Healthy Grand Families meeting. I'm not sure of the date just yet, but we'll help find some supports for our grandparents where they can meet together, talk together, learn some skills, learn some things about technology that the school is using with their Schoology platform and other things and ways to communicate with schools about their student, and then also about how to communicate with their student, individually, because it is different being a grandparent raising a grandchild. It is very, very different on that interaction. So it's not like being a parent, it's very different. So we try to help with those skills and things like that. So my computer's back up here. Let me see if I can bring back up get back on the meeting here. And I'll be able to bring back up the PowerPoint presentation. Sorry for the delay.
All right, I'm back up here, and let me share my screen once again. I have lost the website there. So just, I won't delay any longer. I'm sorry with that. Let me try to find my PowerPoint presentation again, and we'll move up. There is another website that, there's the website. Good, I found it. Sorry. So remember the Healthy Grand Families that we were talking about. Also, mental health and trauma supports. We have 30 professionals on that student support team that have been through the prepare, model, crisis intervention training. So if we have a crisis across the county, we have some teams available that can go and provide extra supports at your school or your student's school if something would happen, if there's a death in the school community, if there's any other issues that may arise, that we have people in place to go. So that is some of the things that we're doing there. Journey of Hope, that is a small group curriculum for our small groups that we are going to create, or that we have been creating. That is a curriculum that normalizes emotion, helps students understand what their emotion is. And this was developed out of the Hurricane Katrina disaster in New Orleans. And when we were looking at this curriculum, I thought this was very effective information that were very similar as far as trying to understand the emotions of struggling with the COVID pandemic, understand what we were trying to get through, isolation, being away from our friends, being away from school, understanding that anxiety, potentially depression or stress that involves from there. And I thought that Journey of Hope curriculum would be very, very effective. So supporting our at-risk students over here, we have a Communities in Schools program going on at our 3 Wayne schools, Wayne Elementary, Middle School, and High School. They have some additional, we have 3 additional community and schools coordinators at those schools to really try to touch base with our at-risk students. We have Graduation 2020 trying to meet the graduation requirements needed that the state requires us to have across the county. And then we also have the truancy diversion plans. We have the school-based probation officer, the school resource officers at our schools. We have a Time 4K grant that we're putting in here. That we're working with Marshall University, trying to put more social workers in our class, in our schools. So that's kind of some of the things really quickly that we can find. Again, that is just a Cliff Notes version of what this website's about. When it gets up and out for the public to see, you'll see a lot more information on there. So I'll go back to hopefully my PowerPoint presentation. No, we're not going to. Yes, we're going to go back to the PowerPoint presentation. I'm sorry, I got a little scattered when I lost my internet connection, so I apologize. Right. We're getting there. All right, so we're talking about, this is kind of our approach to how we address the students. So these are the kind of things that our student support teams at each school talk about. So we have a three-tier model. It's the multi-tiered systems of support. And if you look at tier one, that's the red square at the bottom. That's our school-wide programs and initiatives. That's our classroom guidance lessons. That's trying to hit the school as a whole. That's the large group engagement. It's the teachers, it's the schools, it's the principals' expectations. So that's how we're meeting our social emotional supports as the whole school. It's the program that the schools. We have a very unique schools. Each school has their unique needs and their unique situations. So that's how we're approaching that. There's no real one particular way that we're doing that. Each school kind of has some flexibility there. If you look at tier two, there's where we start focusing in on our student support teams that we were talking about earlier, identifying the students that need to be a little more targeted approach in some small groups instructions. They can be a part of that Journey of Hope programming that can identify those feelings and also normalize them and help them understand their feelings. When I start getting in tier two, we really like to have that parent-guardian contact and that interaction, again, building that relationship and letting them know to work as a team together so that we can do the same things at school and things at home as well. It helps the situation and helps the student improve if that's a situation that they need. And then if you look at the top tier three, you're looking at our really individual situations, the students with complex or chronic needs. They're in contact with a member of our student support team. A lot of times it's our mental health counselors up there in that top tier because it's typically situations that are longer term counseling situations. So that's typically where our mental health people get involved a lot of times, trying to improve those situations for our students and figure out the specific interventions that those students need. There's regular contact with the parent guardian in that tier three option. And also there's weekly, sometimes daily interaction with our student support team members. So that's kind of a quick overview of the multi-tiered system of support and really a basic overview that really is kind of the driving force behind what we're doing for student support. So we'll talk now a little bit about our goals for next school year in student support. We're looking to grow our mental health staff, or grow our student support staff. That way we're not having such large caseloads with some of our team members have some fairly significant cases. So we want to focus our efforts and give more personalized efforts to our students and to their families. So that's really a goal of ours. It may be it's really finding the funding and really finding the places that we need to put some services or additional services. One thing that we really want to try to do is partner with outside agencies. Sometimes we're faced with situations that really we need some outside clinical experience or engagement with our students and our families. So we're trying to find some outside agencies that we can work with, that it's easy to refer those students to those agencies and we can get in there quicker. Sometimes when we look at outside agencies, there's a huge need in that area, and sometimes it's a delay to get in there. So hopefully by having a partnership with them, we have better access for our students and our families. Creating a trauma-informed school and classroom, that's another goal of ours, I think. Understanding that each student has a story. That's where I was talking about trying to give our our teachers more tools for their toolbox. If we look at the next bullet point, the increased youth mental health first aid training for teachers and staff. Every student has a story or some history. There's something going on. And so it just gives us some tool to use to make sure that our students are comfortable in the classroom, they're safe in the classroom, and that academics can be high on their list of important that we can again tag team those together. So those are kind of the 4 things that really are trying to goals for next year. So increasing here, what can you do at home for healthy mental health? So if you look down the left-hand side there's signs of mental health struggles. Some of the highlights there: regressive behaviors, change in sleep patterns, change in eating habits, eating less or eating more, inability to perform daily tasks. If you look at some of the younger children, nightmares, again, not the similar or the normal sleeping schedule for them. You know, they may be acting out aggressively, fighting with their siblings more, or towards you as the parent or the guardian. You know, so those are kind of the things that, hey, there might be something going on here. Okay, so what can you do at home to support your child? And I really like this. If you talk to me at length and very long about social emotional health, control what you can control is a thing that I say a lot. You know, a lot of times we get upset, stressed out, anxious about things that we don't have any control over. So we can control what we can control. You know, you can promote a good mental health by things you say and do. Through the environment that you can create. You have the control over that environment that's in your house or in your community, even with hopefully the school community that you get involved with or sports teams that you get involved with. You have the ability to create that environment. Provide supportive environment. There's that relationship thing again. Build strong, caring relationships. Relationships matter. That's one of our biggest things that we try to focus on as student support team. Relationship matters. You can have that good quality relationship within your house and within your community. One thing that I really wanted to point out earlier that I was going to show you earlier is the mental health website that one of our mental health counselors had a huge star on, a huge impact in creating is this Heal Wayne County. It's a mental health website. Stephanie Copley is one of our mental health counselors, and she was really instrumental in developing this website. And you can kind of see this is something that we control in Wayne County, and there's talks about different things. And there's our friends that we work with as mental health, and you can see what schools they're assigned to in a picture and kind of see who your student may be talking to. One thing that I really like are the blogs. If you're looking for, it's not clicking over there. There it goes. You know, different things that we try to do and see that we're addressing across the county. It's just quick little blog posts that may help you within your house or help your student that they can read and different things like that. But if you want to make contact with your mental health, this is a mental health counselor at your child's school. You can contact that student or that person directly. When you fill out right here, getting started, you fill out this information and you hit submit. It goes directly to the counselor that is assigned to your student's school. They get an email. They get the direct information and hopefully be able to meet your student sooner. So if you're seeing some mental health issues at home, some of the signs or aggressive behaviors, some not so typical sleep habits, then reach out to one of our mental health counselors. There's also a referral form there. You know, there's a lot of different ways. Reach out to the school. We have the people in place that can really help with your student or help you as the parent or guardian or family member. So just something to look to another way to reach out to your school to try to get some support. Here it is. We are here. And this little gray box, more than half of the students, 55%, this is not specific to Wayne County necessarily, but 55% of the students surveyed didn't know where to go for help. So we really want you to know that we're here. We're here to support our students. We want to create the whole student, not just academics, but their social, emotional health as well. And again, there's some of my contact information. Send me an email, ask any question that you like. I may trade some emails, and then if it's going to take longer, send some emails or whatever, then I'll share my phone number, and then we can talk that way. So, Tony, is there any questions in the chat that I can address? No. Hope I didn't hope I provided some information for you to have, and I know we got a little bit scattered there in the middle when I lost some internet connection and things like that, so I apologize. And we're really trying to move forward and really trying to improve our student support. This is still very new. Those over 40 people, or those over 40 positions, are new in a lot of situations. We're still finding our groove. We're still finding a way that we can affect our students the best we can. So please feel free to reach out when you can, and thanks for being here and listening.
Hey guys, can everybody hear me? Just wanting to say thank you, Bradley, again for being with us today. It was great information. And guys, if you have any questions, you can just email him. He gave this email there, or you can email me and I can send that to him. And there were some chat questions, but nothing on this particular topic. So we are good to go on that side of things. Just again, I want to thank everyone for your time. Wayne County Schools is proud to have these people on board with us, and we are doing everything possible given our current situation with the pandemic and things that we've been dealing with. Our faculties and staffs and parents and guardians, everyone, service personnel, has all been doing a great job at just being there to support and help and do what we can for our students to make this as successful as possible can be. So just thank you guys for everything that you do, all the hard work and dedication to make our kids in Wayne County #1. So again, thank you all, and we will hopefully see you again next year for our 5th annual Parent Academy. So everyone have a great day. Thank you.